I think a lot of the time the FIFA model leaves out people from either oppressed minorities or people who have a very strong regional identity or linguistic identity. It's very hard to express that. So CONIF is just a different model of expressing identity through football. And it was something I really wanted to be part of. So I basically took on the responsibility as one of the lead organisers for the tournament in London in 2018. Which was an amazing experience. I'm still very proud of that.
Nice. So is it difficult to organize an international tournament?
Yeah, we were out, the whole way we were just, under-resourced. And also, because of the nature of the teams, we were getting threats and we were getting, people trying to stop the thing happening because of the political sensibilities. Obviously, there was always a risk of Chinese intervention, which actually didn't happen, but it was a very big threat because Tibet were one of the teams that, there could be implications. Visa problems. It was a lot of pressure, and we were always on the edge financially with it. So yeah, it was stressful, I think.
So we kind of mentioned the two teams that took part in the World Cup that you organized in the, what did you call it again? It's not World Cup. It's
World Football Cup, yeah.
World Football Cup. Yeah, sorry. We talked about Padania. Padania is a fictional region in northern Italy that would actually wanted to become independent from southern Italy. There are no racial tensions. There has been no war. Well, then you talk about a place like Tibet that has definitely seen different hardships. So are all the teams respectful to each other? Do they, like the Padanian players, do they understand that there are actually people that are not making up a big joke and they're there to represent their identity?
Yeah, now it's really interesting you mentioned that. So yes, basically, I never personally had a problem with the fact there's a broad scope in there. So I think what you don't want to do is say, this is a thing for people who have been oppressed and all of you go together because you're oppressed peoples. I think there's something almost counterproductive in that. You're setting people as victims and you're saying, here you go, here's a group. So I never had a problem with there being quite a wide range of, there being more regional identity rather than we're all persecuted peoples. And actually the teams got on very well and related to each other through that. So I never minded that. I did, if I'm totally honest, I had issues with Padania because having been someone who had studied Italian, who had lived in Verona, I certainly saw the connotations with Lega Nord and Padania. I was nervous about Padania. And also Padania don't technically meet CONIFA's criteria. They're in there because they got in before the criteria was set. So Padania was always an odd one for me because if I'm totally honest, I don't work for CONIFA anymore. So I can be honest. I struggled to be excited about having them in our tournament. Whereas I would happily shout from the rooftops about Matabeleland and Tuvalu and Tibet. I found it a little hard with Padania.
Yeah, it's got a very strong political connotation. And at the end of the day, even people who supported the idea of Padania, they didn't take themselves too seriously. It was kind of like a FU to southern Italy. Yeah. And when I saw the teams that were competing, I was like, Padania, they are the odd ones out in here.
It somewhat undermined us with anyone Italian, with anyone who really dug into the stories. I felt it undermined us a little bit because I could do nothing about this. I was just organising the tournament. The teams were qualified separately. I couldn't personally intervene, but any time we had to discuss the teams in the tournament and Padania were mentioned, okay, the team themselves were not actively trying to promote a political agenda, but it's very, very hard to detach the term Padania from a politics that I don't personally feel has any place in football, or certainly not progressive football. It felt very out of tune with the rest of the competition, and yet that wasn't my place to intervene at the time. But they're very good footballers for that level, but I did not have any great love for them in the competition.
Let's say that in Padania they definitely have the resources to go training at a football pitch and all that. But I'm going to ask you my last question personally. So you lived different aspects of the game throughout your life. You were a coach, but you also helped setting a team up. Then you organized an international tournament. At the end of the day, Right now, you're doing these beautiful things that you said against player trafficking, the Kitmas idea that I think is beautiful. So at the end of the day, it's a very loaded question, but what is football to you?
For me, football is basically, most of the time, it's identity, and it's allowing people to have access to expressing their identity through it. There's this huge idea that it's always put around that football's for everyone, and it should be for everyone. But the reality is, an awful lot of people, for one reason or another, are frozen out of football or don't have a way to express what they want to through football. And I think for me, it was always about trying to say to people, well, you should have the opportunity to express yourself through it, and in the way that you wish, and saying to people, your identity matters. It doesn't matter to me whether your identity is being Tibetan or your identity is being Italian or what. It doesn't matter, but you should have the right to speak it through football. And I think a lot of what I'm passionate about is that it's the leveling of the playing field, because it looks level to the naked eye, and FIFA will definitely shout about how level it is, but it really isn't.
That's beautiful, Paul. Thank you. That was a really, really interesting chat. I really enjoyed it. But just a quick question before we let you go. Where is next on your adventures when we can travel and when we're allowed to leave our houses again? Where would you want to go next?
I've got to go to Bangladesh for the Rohingya FA Cup. I tried to help set that competition up just before COVID kicked in.
Yes.
Big club tournament for teams in the Rohingya refugee camps in Kutupalong. Really want to make it happen, but we've just been frozen by COVID, which really brilliantly has not been a big problem in the camps. Like, they've not seen the devastating effect we worried.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I still, as an external person and as an organisation that is providing funding, we can't encourage football, even though it is still going on in the camps. We can't be here to say. So yeah, it's been put on hold, this tournament that was supposed to happen in March 2020, and all the funds are ready, everything's ready to go, but we're waiting for COVID. So as soon as that's over, I would love to go and watch this tournament as soon as it's safe for that to happen and responsible for that to happen.
That sounds great. When it happens, you need to let us know, and we can do a little episode on it, or we can, we'll do an episode on it definitely. But Paul, thank you. If people want to follow you on Twitter, what is your Twitter handle?
It is Paul_C_Watson.
Beautiful. And if you're interested in reading the book, it's called Up Pompeii. I can't remember the subtitle. I apologize. It is available on Amazon to buy. Thank you, Paul. That was great. Thanks for coming on.
Lovely. Thanks, guys. I better run and put my little boy to bed, but thank you. Thanks so much.
Beautiful. Well, Tommy, I think that was a fascinating chat, right? I think there was a few topics we covered there that I really didn't expect to come up in the podcast.
A super interesting guy, super chill. We had just as long of a conversation almost before we started recording. Very down to earth. We talked about social media with him, which was very funny. Just an overall great guy. Very interesting story. And the player trafficking thing is something that I was extremely unaware about. And when I think about it, it's like you're playing even more than playing with the person only that is already despicable. You're kind of fucking with the person's dreams. And I think that is a level of just meanness that is kind of exaggerated. But interesting. Definitely follow the guy on Twitter. Follow all the work that he's been doing, because it's very, very interesting. And guess who is in dire straits with guessing the mysterious player? That's me.
We're going to see how Tommy does now. So for the listener, we will recap the clues. So the club he has spent the shortest amount of time at is Kaiserslautern, the once great Kaiserslautern. He has 98 caps, so close to 100 for his country, with 42 goals, 159 career goals in total. And he has played with Roy Mackay, Cloud Makalele, and Ricardo Quaresma. Now, me and Tommy have talked backstage, and Deportivo was not a clue. So Tommy is still going to get 3 questions. Deportivo is not a clue.
Okay, so did I play at Chelsea?
Yes, I did.
No, did you? No,
Right.
yes, I did. Yeah, correct. Okay, did you play at Chelsea? Yes. Are you a striker?
No.
Jesus. Okay. And last question: Am I Europe? Are you European?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so Kaiserslautern. I really don't know this team. I'm assuming they are German, given the name. Yeah, Rory's nodding. Thank you. I'm assuming they are German. I want to think this is I might have it. This is the first team that he played for. I'm thinking of German players that have played at Chelsea, and the only one that I can think of is Ballack. I wouldn't know when Ballack played with Quaresma. Let me think about it. Quaresma, weird career. I kind of lost track of him after he left Inter Milan. He won the Champions League at Inter Milan.
That's mental.
Yeah.
That's mental. That's like how Arnautovic did as well, right? Technically. Yeah.
I think Arnautovic played more minutes than Quaresma, but
Really?
it's ridiculous, but I think he did. Marco Arnautovic, huge shout out. Great guy. But I don't know. I have three chances. The first one is going to be, am I Michael Ballack?
Yes, you are, Michael Ballack. Yeah, man, I thought Quaresma was going to throw you out, He played with him at Chelsea.
At Chelsea? Quaresma?
Yeah, Quaresma was like on there for like a year. Yeah.
But was Mourinho that brought him there?
I'm guessing so. They only played 5 games together, though. I was checking on Transfermarkt, so I don't think Quaresma was like prolific while he was there. But
this was the only German that I could think of that played.
I know, yeah. The second you were like, "Is it Chelsea?" I was like, "Fuck!" They've not had any other Germans beyond Werner play for them, so I don't think like
right.
Yeah,
yeah. And what kind of team is Kaiserslautern?
Man, they used to be really good. They were like Bundesliga, and now they're like third league. Like they used to be really, really good. Like really good.
Okay, but walk me through, where did he play with McKay? And who
So he played with Roy Mackay at Bayern Munich. Now, Roy Mackay, I feel like people forget how good this guy was. And we're going to take a few minutes just to appreciate Roy Mackay, right?
Who cares about Ballack?
No, because I feel like this guy is so forgotten. And his goal record at one point was ridiculous. So at Deportivo, he got 79 goals in 133 games. At Bayern Munich, 78 goals in 129 games. Like the guy in his career, 526 appearances, 256 goals. This guy was lethal. But anyway,
where is he from?
He's from Holland.
Mackay?
That's Mackay, Makkay. He played for Holland 43 times, only scoring 6 goals. That was quite disappointing, I suppose. Right. But anyway, Michael Ballack. So he started his career at Chemnitzer FC, where he was at Kaiserslautern for 2 years. Then he went to Bayer Leverkusen for 3 years. Then at Bayern Munich for 4 years, Chelsea for 4 years, and then back to Bayer Leverkusen.
There is one thing that I think of when the name Michael Ballack pops in my head. You know what it is?
What's that?
That return leg versus Barcelona at Stamford Bridge, with the referee not allowing anything going Chelsea's way.
That refereeing performance is absolutely woeful.
Like his name Ovrebo from Norway, and at a point he doesn't whistle when there is a clear penalty, and you see Michael Ballack, dog face, just turns around and starts chasing.
It's one of those games that makes you think, oh, maybe match fixing is a thing. Like maybe it is.
That one. You all remember the Iniesta goal that sealed that game. But Chelsea were on one. And Michael Ballack chasing the ref is something I will never forget. Just like Didier Drogba at the end, grabbing the camera.
Fucking disgraceful.
Disgrace. It's a disgrace. And that was huge. I was.
But also, happy. Just before, so we don't end on a sour note, we also need to shout out that Michael Ballack, 42 goals in 98 caps, is mental for a midfielder. That is.
He was a strange type of midfielder. He was a very offensive, like kind of winger midfielder. He could play multiple positions. I
remember he was one of the first players that, like, when Chelsea signed him, I was like, oh, fuck, they're getting a proper player here. Like, he is a proper player. But yes, round of applause for Michael Ballack. Round of applause for Tommy. Yes. Woo! Guys, we're at the
before Rory sends you off, I will say goodbye to you, telling you that it's always a pleasure to record this podcast for you.